Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. On Fridays, we talk about the product owner role in Scrum. We talk about patterns and anti-patterns that relate to ours and the team's collaboration with the product owner. And we've also put together a course to help you navigate that relationship. There's 18 modules, nearly 8 hours of tools, techniques, videos, handouts, presentations you can use to help you and your team work better with your product owner. The course is available at bit.ly/coach-your-PO. All lowercase, all one word, that's bit.ly/coach-your-PO. And now, on to the show, the Product Owner Show. Hello everybody, welcome to our Product Owner, TGIF and Friday episode, this week with Bram. Bram the Block, welcome back.
Yes, perfectly pronounced, Vasco. Thank you.
Well, it's not always that I get to perfectly pronounce a guest's name, so I'm happy it happened, at least once.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
All right, so Friday, we'll talk about a great product owner in a minute, but first, share with us what was potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
The worst product owner is probably the one, some context, we have a lot of technical people here in our company that have changed to the accountability of product owner. And having a technical background can be an advantage, is often a lot of an advantage, and sometimes also a disadvantage. And it reminds me of a product owner that completely wrote down the how even before the planning meeting started. So they had an objective, they talked to customers, they had a clear picture of what the customer wants to achieve, a picture they update, and then with their technical background, they already put down, okay, for this challenge, this objective, you need to do it this like that. Completely leaving out any creativity, any expertise from the developer.
So kind of dictating the solution.
Yeah, and not really open to different, maybe better solutions. If the PO then brought this objective to the team and say, okay, can you achieve this? How can we achieve this? And even frowning if you hear if they do story points, the estimation they made on there. I know you're not a big fan of estimations, Vasco. But yeah, also frowning to the developers to say, why do you take so long for this technical item that I already completely detailed out for you to just go step by step and put it in there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? It's product owners kind of have all of that technical, or some of the product owners that have that, they have all of this technical background, and because they have it, they want to make it happen like that, and they even know how to do it, but they forget that actually they are not there anymore. They're not facing the real life of making those changes in the code and having all of those interruptions from maybe even the product owner, and they're not there. And because they're not there, it's very easy for us to underestimate what the actual work is, even if we have detailed it in a technical, a high level of technical detail. I remember, like I was just helping my son write a C program, and we were struggling with a problem that was crashing the program all the time, and we spent, I don't know, I mean, I've programmed for many years. I know C, I know how it works. I've programmed assembler as well, so I know how it works even under the language, and I couldn't figure out what was happening, and my kid is just learning C.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out what was happening. And I was like, man, I'm so frustrated. And that was such a simple thing. In the end, it was just using a string in the wrong manner, and strings in C are extremely dangerous. If you use it wrong, you cause a segmentation fault, so the program crashes. And it was just a very simple mistake, but we couldn't find it. We went around it and so on. And this is just a very concrete example of how it's easy to underestimate the work that others do, because the the developers are they are dealing with concurrency or parallel execution problems. They are dealing with memory management problems. They are dealing with, sometimes the version control system is offline and they can't download the latest version of the code, and like there's all kinds of other problems which are not related to detailing a user story to a high level of technical detail, right? And it's so easy for us as product owners, even if we have been developers in the past, to kind of step out and forget about all of those details.
Yeah, absolutely. If you do it estimations, leave it to the people that are going to do the work.
And how about changing that perspective? Because of course you've worked with product owners that had that kind of maybe temptation to be too technically detailed. How do you deal with that these days?
Make it transparent. Really show the impact it has on the team. Say there are people that are really feeling like they are a pawn, that they are coming to work to read out the task, follow the steps, and it has an impact on motivation, and it will have an impact on the product you are responsible for in the end as well. If people are fed up, they will go somewhere else, and you will lose people that can help you with your products. Really make any change. If you have struggle with resistance to change, make as much as possible everything visible. For example, people not feeling happy anymore in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can kind of pinpoint reactions and show it to the product owner in this one-on-one conversations, right? Because the product owner may not even be aware that that is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And depending on maturity in your team, it doesn't have to be a one-on-one. It can be done in the retrospective with the whole team there. I think that's also a goal you want to achieve, that people are feel that it's safe to speak up about things like that, even if it's a sensitive topic. Maybe everybody understands. Okay, I'm hearing this feedback because everybody wants to make the team better. Thank you for that feedback, even if it's criticism on myself.
And for us, as well as Scrum Masters, when a developer comes to us and says, "Hey, I have this thing because," then you can always ask, "Have you shared that with the product owner?"
Yeah.
Because it's not our job to be the broken phone between the product owner and the team, right? Our job is to actually get them to work well together and communicate effectively.
I'm a bit known in my company already that if people come for advice to me, they know that I will say, ask the team.
That's a mantra here on the podcast as well, right? Take it to the team.
Yeah, ask the team, and usually they just say a frowny face, but with a thumbs up next to it. That yeah, actually you're right. I should ask the team.
Absolutely. Bram, that was the anti-pattern, but of course now we want to explore the best product owner you've ever worked with. How did they work?
Well, technical people, some of the best product owners apparently, in the sense of they understand the impact of technical debt, for example. It's very hard for people, developers, to explain to a PO that doesn't have a technical background that it's worth the time, the budget to refactor important components where you as a product owner will see zero difference in the products, except maybe a bit better performance and a lot more ability later on. It's a lagging indicator for innovation, that later we will be able to innovate more instead of always patching things. So there, one of the best POs is one of the POs that can push back a little to the people that want new features, new features, new features, because he or she understands, okay, we also need to make sure our code is technical excellent, for example. That's one of the good things of a PO. And other good aspects of a product owner is the product owner that really talks to all the stakeholders. So his or her own team, the developers, but also is good friends with the agile coach, with the customers. Very practical stuff. We have product owners that sit together with their team as many lunches as possible, just to hear, okay, what's going on, what are the challenges, frustrations that don't come up in a retrospective. Sometimes you learn more in lunch, or just be there for the team. be available there as well.
How do you help product owners, which I imagine are probably going to be very busy with multiple requests coming from management and even customers and so on? How do you help them save that time to spend time with the team?
By having their own system on how to keep mainly their product backlog manageable. And by not having to spend too much time on their own product backlog, they also save some time to have real connections face to face with, for example, the team, but also the customers. And one of the biggest pushbacks I get from product owners is really to limit their product backlog. That ever and growing lists, we see that happen a lot, and it's very difficult to reject items apparently. But I try to support them that, okay, we have two options. We can reject this task because we know it's low value and it's not urgent. It's not going to be done in the next year, for example, or we can throw it on the pile, throw it at the bottom, be not transparent to the customer who thinks, okay, it's on the backlog, they accepted my request, it will get done. While everybody in the team already knows, nope, it will not get done. But we're not saying no, so we'll have to manage that customer every X time, waste time on that, but at least we didn't have to say no. So I kind of want to make that visible. Okay, there are two options. You can let the customer know right now or when he complains, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that conversation, right? Like making it clear in the product owner that there are consequences to just adding stuff to the backlog, whatever those are, like, not being transparent to the customers being one of those consequences. But there are also others, like demotivating the team, making the team feel that their work has no meaning because they're just doing small things they don't believe in, and all of those things that come as a consequence of just adding stuff to the backlog, right? And having that conversation about consequences is extremely important.
Yeah, it's not being done enough yet for many product owners is to show, so we want to embrace changes. We really do, but also have that conversation of, okay, what is the impact? It will push this item down, which is good, right? We have something of higher value and we're pushing something of lower value out. But that second part, we're pushing something out, is forgotten or not done much too often. So the customer thinks, okay, I'm gonna have it all still within the same time and the same budget, even though I add new things every day. Yeah, if we could, we would, but we have finite time, we have finite people working on things. So yeah, share that second part, talk about the impact of the changes and welcome those changes. Just make it the impact transparent is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Bram, we're almost at the end here, but of course, before we go, where can people find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
You can easily reach me on LinkedIn. I don't think there are many Bram the blogs. You'll probably find me quickly. Or on that Data Miner Dojo, that community website, you can find me active there as well with blog posts and best practices, retro recipes, all the goodness. Still with pride.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bram, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
No, thank you. This was really fun, exciting and fun. Thank you.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.